My next guest is a complete failure. Such a failure, in fact, that her latest show is called I Failed. The problem is the more she fails in a weird way, the more successful she becomes. Please welcome the powerfully underachieving Judith Lucy. I wrote that myself. You've gone to the water already?
Well, I'm terrified, and my haircut's bad, so isn't it? Come on, don't pretend.
No,
Eddie Munster? Yes. See, recognition.
I'm going to call you Eddie for the rest of the interview.
Fine.
See, you put it in my head now. I don't see it personally, but I'll go with it. Is it fair to say that your parents, Tony and Anne, were
freaks?
I was going for the more moderate peculiar, but you go right ahead.
I guess Dad was kind of freaky in a more obvious way. It was the makeup wearing that did it for most people.
What do you mean, as in lipstick, or what are we talking about?
Okay, well, it started off, and this was when I realised for the first time that it was a bit odd. In grade 1, we had one of those very progressive teachers who got us to play a game where she would say a characteristic or a trait of some kind, or even just an activity, and you have to say, oh, my mum or my dad does that, you know. And when she said, where's makeup? I went, well, they both do, and was aware that I was getting a couple of strange looks. At that stage, Dad just wore a lot of powder, but that progressed to eyebrow pencil on the eyebrows, but also on the sideburns, which was a little mystifying. And then he made the leap to foundation. And he wore so much foundation. Like, if you had punched my father in the face, it would have taken a couple of seconds to reach flesh.
Why did he wear the makeup?
I can honestly say that he was a very, very vain man. And in his head, he thought this was an improvement. He was wrong, which was a shame. And once I called him on it. I said, Dad, what is it with the foundation? Without blinking an eye, it's sunblock.
He was way ahead of global warming, wasn't he?
There you go. That could have been it.
He was protecting himself against nuclear radiation.
We just didn't see the big picture with Dad, but yes.
And what about your mum?
Oh, Mum, God, Mum was just such a pathological liar. No, I've never met anyone who could lie on the spot like my mother could. Just extraordinary.
And did she lie within the family? Were these obvious lies? Because sometimes chronic liars, they're very easily caught out.
Well, she was an enormous hypochondriac, although in the end she was actually very ill. But she would come up with some amazing conditions. My favourite was if you were saying something that my mother wasn't interested in, you could literally be screaming into her ear. Can't hear you. Say something she was interested in, you could have been whispering it into a sock at a Motorhead concert and she would have heard every word. And when I would point this out to Mum and say, little bit of an inconsistency there, she'd go, nervous hearing. It's a condition called nervous hearing. She had one for everything.
That's fantastic. She was also, she had a fear of water?
Running water did freak Mum out. Well, you probably know the story, Andrew, that I was 15 before I had a shower. And that was because I was told that our shower was broken. Like, Mum didn't shower, didn't want us showering, but knew other people had showers and that was probably normal. So one day when I had a friend over to stay the night, you know, I was 10, that was a pretty big deal as well. I'll always remember Mum like bursting into the room the next morning and just going, oh, I've just had the most wonderful shower. Whew, that was a great shower. That was a really great shower. And I didn't have the heart to tell her. I mean, I knew she was lying that she hadn't had a shower, but I didn't know how to say to Mum, I don't think most people discuss it. I I don't think it's like saying that was a great football match, that was a great movie. What? 10 out of 10 for that shower. So there wasn't a lot of hair washing going on either. Dry shampoo was something Mum was a big fan of.
Dry shampoo?
Dry shampoo came in a can. You sprayed it on the hair, you combed it out, and then the idea was, of course, that it was meant to look like you'd washed your hair. No, it just looked like you had chronic dandruff. So for most of my early years, I simply smelt pretty bad and had terrible dandruff.
What was that first shower like when you were 15?
God, I don't remember. I can tell you, though, that I became, once I started showering, oh, you couldn't stop me. Until I was in my late 20s, I quite often had 5 or 6 showers a day. Really.
Making up for lost
Absolutely.
time.
And was an obsessive hand washer to boot.
You've done a lot of stand-up work, but really what's brought you your fame, I think, is your stage shows, because they've been so open about your life, and they've talked about stuff that most people don't talk about. You did one in the mid-90s called Impossible Dream, which told the story of how at the age of 25, you suddenly discovered that you were adopted. How did this news get broken to you?
Basically, it happened on Christmas Day. And the Lucys were not renowned for happy Christmases. But this one did really take the cake. So we had it at my brother's house because Mum and Dad were generally better out of their own environment. Anyway, my father was not in good form. Basically, he and my brother got into an extraordinary fight. Like, my father tried to, well, there's no easy way of putting it, he was just trying to punch my brother's lights out, really, and screaming, "I'm going to kill you, you effing C." And not friendly chum. No. And basically my mother, my then sister-in-law, and I had to pull him off my brother, and he ripped a chunk of hair out of my sister-in-law's head and stuff. And anyway, so that pretty much cleared the room. My brother went for a walk. Mum took Dad home. And then I was left chatting to my ex-sister-in-law now, and I tried to crack a joke. I was like, "Gee, you've got to be thrilled you've married into our family." And then she basically told me I was adopted.
So once you processed this, did you feel betrayed, angry?
I mean, I suppose I was just in shock more than anything. And this fight had been so horrible, that almost was on my mind more. My knee-jerk reaction was I just rang up everyone I knew. You know, you're not going to believe it. And all of my friends, especially the ones who knew my parents really well, all of them said the same thing, which is, "Oh my God, you're adopted. You must be so relieved." And, having just touched on a couple of stories there, you can probably see that angle.
Did you actually feel that, though, or did it change the concept of who you were?
Look, there was that weird kind of penny dropping feeling. Certainly meeting my biological mother was a great thing for me. And our story is a very happy story. I know there are a lot of stories that aren't so happy, but because we're so alike in so many ways, I guess that gave me something I'd never really had before. I guess an identity that I hadn't had before.
I'll get back to your meeting with Jan in a second. When you confronted Tony and Anne with the new knowledge that you were adopted, what did they say to you? How did they explain to you they kept it from you?
Pretty good. I asked them separately. Mm-hmm. Asked Dad first, and Dad said, well, because I woke up one morning and decided I wanted a daughter. And I'm not making this up. I said, "Dad, I mean, you already had a son. Did you think about having a crack at that plan with Mum?" And he honestly looked me in the eyes and went, no, that never really occurred to me. Okay, now we go to Mum. And Mum told me that they adopted me because they had been trying to have a child but couldn't. Mm. But we know Mum's a pathological liar. So, who knows? Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because I decided if I were adopted, I wouldn't want to know. Mum, why didn't you tell me? I forgot.
No, she didn't.
She did. That's what she said. And I knew she meant it in because I thought of you as my own kind of way. Right, yeah. However, just coming out with "I forgot" wasn't the answer I was really chasing at the time.
I knew there was something I had to tell you. So when you met Jan, which was